Okay, folks, so we're making sourdough bread, and we have an active starter. I can do a video about that next time, but let's just know that I have an active starter, which is made from my 5-year-old starter, which I created using dark rye and water, and which I resuscitated recently from frozen using whole wheat because I don't have any more dark rye. And the build of the starter could have used other kinds of flour eventually once it got strong, but the levain is where you get to play with the flavors. And for me, the best thing about sourdough breads is that you can have a variety of flours in the mix. So I need 85 grams of active starter, and now I have 98 in there. I zeroed out the I zeroed this out, the container out, so I'm just measuring the starter. There's 86 in there. That's good enough for me. And I just put this sticky spoon somewhere. Oh, it says 87. That's a little too much. The issue here is that you have to be weighing everything because the ratios are everything. Oh, that's 85. Perfect. Then we're going to zero this out, and the ratios can't be done with measuring cups. It's just not possible, and it's because this kind of bread making predates measuring cups, and it was always ratios. So we have our starter. We're making the levain at this point. That's French for leavening, and I'm going to zero this out again and add 150 strong flour. That's bread flour, which means strong flour means it has more proteins, which produce better gluten strands, and good bread has awesome gluten strands. That's what makes it so beautiful. I got 143, and I'm gonna do, that's 153, so I need to take a little out. It says 151, that's good enough for me. In fact, I prefer it less wet and more dry, but there's a lot of arguments for doing it the other way around. Okay, so now I have whole wheat flour, and I'm going to add 50 and I'm going to bring this up to 200. So I'm actually only adding 49 grams. Okay, now we're at 206, 204, 202, 200. Perfect. Let's just swoosh that around and then zero it again. And this levain will rise for 3 or 4 hours in a warm place, and it should be stringy. There should be strings. The amount of time is not as important as the gluten build. So now I have to add 175. I've zeroed this of room temperature water around 72 degrees, 70 or 72 degrees. This will be hard to remove if I overshoot it, but it's sitting on the top. That's 80, 90, 100, and it's all sitting on the top. 220, 125, 140, 160, 169, let's see, 173. Okay, so I'll just do a cap. There's a reason to have this amount of hydration. This is 50% hydration, and that's kind of the standard. And then after that, you are increasing or decreasing hydration, depending on what you're after in the end. So I'm gonna take my gluey spoon, try to get it back to 175. There it is, perfect. Okay, and now turn that off. We get a fork. I got a nice big fork. Turn off my power here. And we're gonna blend. We're gonna just mix up the levain. We're mixing up the additives to the starter. And we want it to look shaggy. Shaggy is totally all right, because when there's a word for this called autolyse, but that's not really essential to know. But it will get liquidy just by virtue of the active microbes. Yeast is a fungus, and sourdough actually includes the bacteria that's in the air in your location. So every sourdough starter is different. And you can see the color's nice. It's not going to be super dark bread. It's just going to have a nice amount of color inside and a nice amount of texture. And I'm just gonna do this for another 2 minutes. You don't need to see it. And I'll let it rest for 10 minutes, and then I'm gonna put it in my oven with the light on to keep it, because our house is freezing cold and we need it to be between 70 and 72 degrees for 3 or 4 hours. See you later. So it's been 3 hours. I turned on the oven just to get my ambient temperature to around 75 degrees. It started out at 69, so there's been some variation. I put in the starter, 85 grams, and I replaced what I took out with 42.5 grams of flour and 42.5 grams of spring water. That's something else. And then I let it sit with my levain for a couple hours before putting it in the fridge. Waited to see if Bubbles got some bubbles. And it did, so I put it back in the fridge. Now I have my levain, and I just want to see if there's strands forming. And there are. You can see it. See how it sticks to the wall? So this is where we move on to building the bread dough. And as I said, you don't want to be using, I got my big antique bowl from Cornwall, England. You don't want to be using, what's the word I'm looking for? You don't want to be using tap water, because it's chlorinated, and the entire function of chlorination is to kill microbes. And of course, we're relying thoroughly on microbes. The other thing is using I have 800 milliliters, 800 grams. It's amazing how physics works. If you remember high school, 1 gram of water equals 1 milliliter of water. So I have 800 milliliters, which is 800 grams of water. But I'm starting only with 600. And we might not use the entire amount. Let's see how much that is in milliliters. I've got 800. I want to have 200 left, right? So in my big bowl, I've got, where am I? That's 400, 300, 200. Oh, a little bit more. This is also room temperature. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna say it's 76 degrees. Room temperature is 73 degrees. And this is 75. So that's perfect for this. A little more water. And a little more, and that should be it. Okay, put that away. And I am going to use most of it. Now we need to measure out 210 milliliters. Where's my, well, here it is. Little bowl here, very light. I'm gonna zero it out, and I want 210 of the levain, which is nice and gooey and very stretchy. Ooh. Okay, so it's been doing its job. That's 150, 149. It's stretchy. That's too much. You don't need it all. We don't never need it all. We just want to make sure there's enough. And then I need to get, hands are washed. This is important because I only want 210 grams. This is important because of the amount of flour we're going to add. Okay. That's 224. Not sure what I'll do with the rest of the levain. Okay, that's 201. 11, sorry, that's 211. That's good enough. I'll put this in the fridge. I might be able to mix it back into something. Okay, so, of course, everything turns out mucky. And let's put this aside. We get this in here as best we can. And then we're going to try to dissolve it in the water until it's frothy. And I guess that's where that extra 1 gram went, because I probably can't get it out. So keep that going here. We'll need it. And then I'm gonna use my special dough hook for this. You don't need any special equipment. I just happen to have it. And we're going to dissolve it. And it's gonna produce a sudsy reaction. And obviously a fork would do, but my hands are sticking to the fork, so I don't know what's gonna happen. Okay, so we've got this sudsy solution here. we're gonna add the flour for the dough. And we're gonna use our hands probably. Let's just see how this goes. I'm going to use, I'll put this plate back on. It's got levain in it, so it's not exactly, it's not dirty. It's got the same thing we're going to be eating. Zero it out. Put the bread flour. And I need 800 grams of that. So let's do that. I got a little bit of a problem here, given that I have no space. Okay, that's 295. That's 471. $5.91. Let's just make that 6. 610. $5.99. And then I'll add 200. Zero it out again. 200. Perfect, 200. And I'm going to add some, I'm gonna add equal amounts here. Where's my plate? Oh, I gotta have 200 of plain all-purpose unbleached. That just kind of wakens it up a bit. I want 200 of that. $183. $203. $191. $199. It's just 200. Perfect. 200 all-purpose unbleached flour. And then let's get this out of the way. And then we're gonna add, for texture and flavor, 200 whole wheat. Remember, this is sort of a basic starter bread. You can add all variations of flour at this point. This is the point when you can be experimental. Oh, that was 200 until I started screwing around with it. Okay. $200, perfect. And then we're going to use our clean hands. Put that away for now. Turn this off. And we're going to mix this up. The remaining water will come into play when we add the salt. And we might add more flour. So that's all you need to know. Okay, folks, that only took around 10 minutes. I made an error earlier. I said I would let the semi-dry dough to rest for half an hour before adding the rest of the water. That wasn't correct. I put the 600 milliliters in and mixed, as you saw, with my hands and let that rest for 5 minutes. Then I put some more water in, another 50 milliliters, and let that rest for 5 minutes. And then I put a little bit more in. So I still have, out of my 800 milliliters, which is 800 grams, I have 50 milliliters of water left at the right temperature, and I have measured 20 grams kosher salt. The reason it should be kosher or sea salt is it has to be non-iodized. Same reason we don't use for the same reason we don't use tap water. And because all this dry crusty bits have formed in the bowl, we are going to transfer it to the container I have here, which is going to be a bulk fermentation bowl. And I've oiled it very lightly with olive oil. We'll throw this in. And just like that, these pieces that are left, the dry bits. Oh, I should mention the whole purpose is to get all the flour wet. But you do it in stages at the end because it takes time to absorb, and the more whole wheat flour you have, the more water you need. So I'm going to let this rest for an hour before I massage in the water and salt. And at that point, one might normally let it ferment for 5 hours and start the shaping your balls, your loaves. But I'm not going to because it's already midnight, and I'll probably, after I massage the salt water into the dough, I will put this in the fridge. I didn't start early enough today. I started in the nighttime. So I'll put it in the fridge and let it, take it out tomorrow. I trying to work it out on my own time, my own schedule. Anyway, so that's it for now. And when I say massage, you're gonna find, if I'm still awake then, you're gonna find that it is massaging. There's no really other good term for it. Okay, so it's been an hour at a great ambient temperature of 74.7 degrees, which is not the temperature of my house, but it's because of the oven that, I only had to turn on a few hours ago and then turn it off once it reached 350. Anyway, so we have our dough. It's got a kind of sweet, sour smell. It should by now have, the grains should have already by now incorporated all the water. And we're going to add the remaining 50 grams, which is 50 milliliters of water. And we're going to add the 20 grams of non-iodized salt, which in this case is kosher salt. So I'm putting there's a reason we don't put the salt in it with the dry ingredients. It's because it retards the growth of the yeast, and it retards it even faster when it's homemade yeast, as opposed to the kind you get in the package. So I'm going to be squeezing the water and the salt into the dough. And the reason we're squeezing it is because we don't want to tear the strands those strands of gluten that have been forming the threads, which are going to hold the whole thing together. And this process, it looks like there'll be a lot of water. It's not that much, and it appears like it will never go in. But if you slowly squeeze for 5 to 7 minutes, it will go in. It will be incorporated, and you'll have a nice creamy, luscious dough. So you just keep going, and my understanding is that you get, at the end, you'll have no water left. You'll only have maybe streaks on the outsides of the bucket here. And that's when you know, if there's no water, just streaks, you've got a dough. And also I want to note that you shouldn't need sourdough dough. That's why we're squeezing it, as opposed to kneading it. Because if you knead it, the threads will break. And after this dough is, and I'm prone to kneading because that's what I'm used to doing, but you really don't want to break any of the strands. And I'm going to let you go while I do this, but I just want to say that the next stage is, I can see the water's already incorporating. Oh yeah, there's not very much left. So I'm just going to squeeze and squeeze. And I'll get back just a moment. Yes, on the kneading issue. When you are finished this stage, one would normally start to do the stretch and folds every 30 minutes, 3 or 4 times, or 2 or 3 times, and then let rest for 5 hours. But because it's the middle of the night, I'm going to incorporate, I'm going to squeeze, I'm going to incorporate the salt water. I'm going to leave it out for another hour or so, and then put it in the refrigerator, so that I can deal with it on my own time tomorrow. And we'll see how that goes. Oh, it's getting there. There's only streaks, almost only streaks. Anyway, I'll use my dirty thumb, turn this off, and keep going for a minute or two. Okay, folks, so I have my dough internally up to temperature. It took a long while, and I turned my oven on, and I left the door open, so on and so forth. I even received my new, this is a heating pad on low, because it's, freaking freezing. And I got this up to 77.8 ambient temperature. Oh, just turned to 80.5 when I picked it up. That's weird. Okay, so I've already done this stretch and fold once and let it rest for 30 minutes. I'm going to do this one. I'll try to see if, I don't know how easily you can see it. So I've washed my hands, obviously. You take one corner and you pull it, and you can see the strands aren't breaking, and then flop it over. And then you take the other corner. I usually do this in a bowl. The only reason and there's a big hard piece of flour, which I'm squishing out. I'm doing it this way because a fellow on TV did it this way. Even if you have a bowl, it will still lift up like that. So basically each corner, squish out and turn. And I'm on my 4th corner. I've done it once. This is the second one. I wait another half. Let's get all those hard lumps out, because those are pockets of flour. and we turn it over like that. And I didn't mention that I found the dough this morning in the fridge didn't have the consistency of a good dough. It was super tough. So I put in another 100 milliliters of water and did the squeezing method to incorporate it. I'm gonna actually do this one more time. And I also must mention that the reason we're stretching it is because it's a better way to form strands than kneading dough. You can't knead sourdough. You have to stretch and you can't break them. And so if they're gonna break, you've stretched it too much. Okay, I probably stretched quite enough. Now it looks like that. And see, it's soppy, but there's threads. The thing that I'm not seeing yet are bubbles. You can do this 2, 3, or 4 times. I'm going to just use my time to figure that out. I definitely feel the need to do this at least 3 times, possibly 4 times, with 30 minutes resting in between each stretch. Okay, and you can see how lovely it is. It's sticky as, it's basically glue, but that's okay. Okay, I'm back. I want to do a third stretch. As you saw in the previous video, I did a second stretch. I've waited 30 minutes and I have, oh, it's touching my hand, but it was 76 degrees. I'm going to do this third stretch because I just want the heat. I just want to make sure that after chilling this overnight, which is not a normal part of the process, that I have workable dough. So that's one. Oh, you can also use water on your hands. That's a good idea. Okay, so everything's looking really good here. It's smelling a little sour, but it's not putrid. Okay, we're pulling. Okay, you don't really have to slop. Just a fold. A little more water on my hands. Keep it from sticking. That was 2 corners. This is the third corner. Okay, turn down. And then, I don't know which corner I started with, but I can tell that all the lumps are gone. Well, almost gone. Press them out when you see them. And then I turn it. And you know what? Because I saw that lump, I'm gonna stretch and fold again. And my dough seems to be quite sturdy, so adding water by using my hands is not a problem. Not going to be a problem, Okay, I think I'll do one more, and then because it's so cold out, let's just do one more. Make sure we have good mixture of water into the, without breaking. Okay. And then you do a flip like that. You can always see it's starting to look a little bit loaf-like. But now it goes, I'm only putting it in the oven, which has been turned off for an hour. It just heated up because of the cold, windy weather we're having here. So the temperature's off. The oven's off. And it feels just a bit more than room temperature. Put it in there for 3.5 hours until I see bubbles and structure. And by structure, I mean the more threads at the bottom. Okay, folks, so my dough has been fermenting at around 80 degrees Fahrenheit after the pulling and slapping down, which I did twice with half an hour between them. It looks like there are a few bubbles and it's quite gentle looking. I wanted to mention that I'm going to use two methods for this bulk fermentation in the fridge, and that's because I'm going to use my cloche, which is a stoneware, gorgeous piece of stoneware from Emile Henry, which is one of the best French baking outlets for dough and for pastries. But and I also want to say, and that's going to go into the banneton here with the linen, and I've cut this out to go fit perfectly in there, but that won't be until tomorrow because this needs a second rise in the refrigerator. It's called retarded fermentation. But I also want to show you that it's possible to do it without a device like that. Many people, many online YouTube videos, etc., show you how to do it in a French oven, and that's the same process as using the cloche meaning bell en français, and perhaps I have too much flour here. But the thing is, I don't really like how you get these artificial little like vertical shapes on the dough with the what am I calling it? The Dutch oven method. So I'm going to do another one in this long elongated banneton, and it'll be kind of like a baguette, but not really. It'll just be it'll end up being elongated baguette or elongated loaf, and I'll do that on my my pizza stone. That's different. And I have another batch going, and I'll show you how to do that. Both the baguette version and the other version will not use the cloche because, first of all, the baguette doesn't fit in the cloche. Maybe the other one will. But the reason you use a cloche or a Dutch oven is because you need the steam from the moisture to stay around the dough. That's what produces the best crust. And if you don't have that, you can use a bowl and a towel for resting overnight. But it can't be a terry cloth or anything where the moisture will stick into and become part of. You will never get it out. And when you do the method without the banneton, but just a bowl with a cloth like that, you will have the same result as long as you add a half a cup of water into a basin, or in my case, my oven is waterproof, so you just throw that in for the steam because you need steam. Anyway, that's a longish way to say I'm ready to. Smells good. I'm ready to dump out the dough. Oh, it doesn't want to come. Oh yeah, it's coming. Look, and it's not, there's nothing on the bottom. Okay. I can see there's some bubbles. This is a good sign. You want bubbles. They will, the bulk fermentation, retarded fermentation in the fridge will show you that there's going to be well, this just proves that there's going to be more fermentation overnight. And by overnight, I mean 8 to 12 hours. I'm probably going to leave it longer. And I can't find... Oh, well, whatever. Oh, I found it. Yay. Bench scraper. I don't use bench scrapers to scrape. I use them to cut dough in half. And then I scrape when I'm cleaning up. So this is looking good. What we want to do here is gently, I'm putting this aside. This is not like your typical bread dough, obviously. See how it sticks? You want to be shaping it. I'm going to have wet hands in a minute. But I also want to show you that I'm using rice flour in the banneton. And it has to be nicely floured to keep the moisture from making the dough stick when it's overnight. And it also is going to produce a nice pattern when it comes out. But like I said, you could use a regular bowl of this size or smaller with a clean cotton towel that is not got fiber, that's not fibrous, like a terry cloth. And so I'm gonna get my hands a little bit wet, and I'm just going to, oh, see, it's wet. This dough is going to always be wet. That's just how it is. And we're gonna roll it. We're not gonna roll it, we're gonna tighten. We're going to tighten and tighten. We're going to smooth, turn, smooth, and tighten. So what we want to do is get a good tension on the top. Okay? So let's make sure it's sticking. It's sticking. We need more flour. Put it back on there and just come around and smooth. Turn it. Come around and smooth. Come around. Let's do some more flour here. I got a big piece of dry dough here. Okay, so we're gonna smooth it out. Smooth it out. I can tell this is fluffy and good, but maybe I didn't need to turn that on its side like that. And we're just gonna throw it in upside down because the bottom will be the top. All right, so we're gonna let that sit for, I don't know, 15 minutes. And then the whole thing is going into a plastic bag and into the fridge for 8 to 12 hours. I'm probably going to, it'll probably be longer because it's late and I might sleep in. Okay, so that's the first one, resting. And now we're gonna do the one that I'm planning to use in the long banneton, using rice flour. Oh, I'm using rice flour, why? Because rice flour will stick to the dough. It will release from this linen, and it will not burn at a low temperature. Regular flour, white flour burns at a lower temperature, and these are going to be cooked at between 450 and 500 degrees. And this one I'm going to cook tomorrow on my pizza stone, which is not a stone, it's a pizza iron. It's a nice big piece of iron that produces even heat, retains heat, and is quite wonderful. I feel like I overdid it here. Okay, that's the rice flour. Okay, so when we're doing shaping, ooh, I need some more flour here. Okay, doing an oblong shape, you tend to you have to be gentle. Do not press or knead because there's air in there, but you want to make an envelope. All right, like that. And then you want to pull so that there's tension. I can smell it smells like sour cream, actually. But none of that will be the flavor in the end. That's just the gas is releasing, and they will be burned off. So I have, what's that? Let's just pull this out a bit with gravity and put it in the banneton. You can use anything. You don't have to have specialized equipment for this. And I'm kind of wondering if I shouldn't have perhaps shaked it out more. Okay, just a moment. This is how you get rid of your excess plastic. You tie these up. I just saw there's a hole in this bag, so I'll probably do another one. Tie these up and put them in the refrigerator for the retarded fermentation, which means slow fermentation, and that's what gives you the maximal flavor. I will do the other one, and of course I'm covered, but this is gonna work out. In the meantime, I'm going to do a second one as a test, because this was my dough that wasn't really working out last night. Let myself get a third of it out. It's got a lot of bubbles. Looks pretty good. It's sticky as hang, but that's actually a sign of a high hydration. And high hydration can and should give you more bubbles. Or sorry, I mean more air pockets in the final crumb. So that's my test module. I need to get more, more rice flour. And I need to, oh, this is what I'm looking for. We're going to get more in my hands. This is a test for me because I want to make it, I want to try the higher hydration version. Okay, it doesn't want to behave. I'm not going to get I'm not sure if I'm getting I'm trying to get a tight pressure without knocking out the bubbles. Okay, that's kind of what I'm going for. Voila. Keep going. And then throw the top side down because the top side is going to come out, the bottom is going to come out on the top. So that's an experiment. And these two should be good, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Okay, so I've preheated the oven to 500 with the bread cloche in it for half an hour. Because it's ceramic, I only need it in for half an hour. My bread dough has been in the fridge overnight in the plastic bag. And I have a piece of parchment. I'm going to turn it out onto the parchment. Voila. Kind of get off some of that extra rice flour. I'm going to carefully bring the very hot cloche out. And keep the heat trapped. And carefully put this, hold on. Put this on the hot base. Oh yeah, that's the alarm. I'm cutting it so it can expand. And ow! Oh shit, I forgot to put the glove back on. That's gonna hurt. And then I'm going to put this in covered at 475 for 25 minutes, and then I'm going to uncover it. Okay, this is sourdough baking part 2. I am doing a different method. The last one I did was using a cloche dome, which is basically the same thing as using a Dutch oven, only better in my opinion. And the dome and the cloche trap the moisture, so you need to have the ability, a pan of water ready. I have 3/4 of a cup here. The bottom of my oven is waterproof, so I just throw it in, but you know, otherwise you'd use just some kind of baking tray. I have ready here my cookie sheet peel. I don't know what it's really called, but I don't have a pizza peel. I always use this. And my parchment again. And inside my oven is a pizza steel that's been getting hot for around 45 minutes. It's at 500 degrees now. and eventually my oven will go berserk and shut off. So I have to go a little bit quickly here. The steel is what I use instead of a pizza stone or a bread stone. I had one before, it cracked. So I find the steel better. It heats up better and it faster, and it retains the heat. Well, stones retain the heat too, but they don't. They take a lot longer than 40 minutes to get heated through. So I'm gonna get my rested banneton, which was overnight, and there's gonna be a lot of, I noticed from the last time that I probably used the rice flour, but that's because in the past I've had it leakage and it would stick to the linen, but I don't have that problem this time. And actually I don't really see one of those parts, so I have my little brush here to get rid of the excess, because I kind of prefer to see the color. And that's gonna give me a kind of oval shape. I have a super sharp knife, which is easier for me than a razor blade. And we'll just put that right in and immediately turn the heat down. Oh, easier said than done. Okay. Turn the heat down to 450 and check at 20 minutes, and to see whether I need to cover it with foil or if it's cooking too quickly or not enough. Oh, the water. Do not forget the water. I hope you heard that. Steam. There's no, if you're not using a Dutch oven or a closed cloche, you have to add steam. Otherwise, your crust will be inedible. Okay, that's it for now. Thanks. Okay, so here's my baguette style loaf. I gotta get my gloves here, my super tough kitchen mitts. But I think this looks pretty good. This is free form, as they say. No, I think it looks really great. I might actually put it in, let's see. I don't know. I think it looks good. It's fairly thin, so I don't think for more than 40 minutes is appropriate. And oh, it also started to get a little scorching on the bottom because of the steel. But I think that's quite cute. And I'm not gonna put it in for longer just to get more brown. I think the gold is really nice. And I won't be cutting it because this will continue to cook internally for another, 20 minutes. And we want it to have the perfect crumb. So, voila. It is kind of baguette-like.